Hello and welcome back to MindWhack, the podcast for people who are using AI and content marketing to really move the needle, to change things up. My name is Spider Graham, and I am the founder of Gravity Clamp.
And my name is Lori Kirkstead, and I'm the founder of Content Uncomplicated. And today, I want to talk about something that might not seem so sexy, but it's something we all got to deal with in our day-to-day lives, and that's workflows. So I want to
workflows,
workflows, project management. But what I want to do is tell you a story about an interaction with a client that really helped me see how I was using it a lot for creative projects. That's what I love. But the saving time and automating tasks and all that, I want to get more into that. So let me tell you a story. I have this amazing client. They're in ed tech, professional learning. They get a lot of RFPs. And that requires searching for a lot of information that's not always as easily accessible as you would think. So here's what happened. The sales VP found this PDF online, and it looked like it had been photocopied 8 million times. Like, you know how when you're in elementary school,
the mimeograph machine, for those of you old enough to remember that thing.
Yep. And it's like, what is this? And then with budget cuts, it's like you photocopy everything. So that's what I liken it to. So what this had was the leaders of all the K through 12 schools, everyone that has buying power, and it had their phone numbers, didn't have their email address. The thing is, you couldn't copy and paste it. Lots of documents are like that, right? So I'm figuring, let me just download this. I'll put it into ChatGPT and say, can you extract this data? Well, didn't work. For whatever reason, it couldn't crawl it. So the client almost had a panic attack. Like, what are we going to do? And it was a really simple fix. I just took a bunch of screenshots. So now I had JPEGs and I said, can you please crawl this now? And it did. So I took that as an opportunity to sort of train my client, because my job here isn't just to be a task rabbit and do all these things with ChatGPT. I want to empower my clients and say, you can do this too. So we can do the more exciting things. So we don't have to worry about this. So what we did was we locked it in there. We asked it in normal language that anyone can understand. You know, what does this say? Extract the data. When it told us, great, now put it into this table. Here's all the parameters I want. This is something I do all the time, but for people who aren't in this, it absolutely blew their mind. It was a mind whack. So that's what excites me about working with clients, is that you kind of forget your own expertise. But I'm not an AI expert, but I am seen as an AI expert because I'm jumping in and using all these tools and showing people instead of just telling them how great AI is. I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, is to show tools and real ways to use it. So now what that resulted in is next week, I'm doing a training for the marketing team to show how we can actually use this for our workflows and to save time, because that's the biggest thing. It's a small team. It's not necessarily a budget thing. But when you're a small team, you got to be nimble and agile and get stuff done. There's no central data team to help. So go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's so important because, I mean, time is one of the most important things that any business has. And if you're using it to do mundane tasks, and all your people are basically spent doing the day-to-day, just making sure the data flows from this point to this point, they're not getting into the good stuff.
Absolutely. And something that I kind of landed on that I relate to my content marketing work is, tell me if you relate to this, right? We're talking about the name of an asset. Like, is this a white paper? Is this an ebook? Is this whatever? It's like, who cares as long as it gets the job done? So here people are talking about, this is AI. It's not. I'm like, we need to go back to a 101. And I'm going to define for you what these key terms are and how they all relate to each other. And in talking with you, we realized, we jumped in immediately. Here's how to use it, because we want to get the ball rolling and go. But maybe let's take 2 steps back and actually define some of these key terms, right? So feel free to jump in if you have a difference of opinion here, because this is all new. But here's how I think they all relate. Artificial intelligence is the broad field. That's your umbrella here. And it basically talks about efforts to make machines perform like humans, to do human-like tasks, right? Then we go to machine learning. Machine learning, also known as ML, is a subset of AI, and that is training the algorithms on the data so they can learn patterns and do all the predictions and all that without being explicitly programmed, right? Now let's go down to generative models. So these are types of machine learning models that create new data similar to the input that they were trained on. So like, for example, they could be like realistic images or text, like it's the basic stuff. But now let's talk about large language models, because that's what we kind of hear a lot as large language models. These are the generative models specifically designed to handle and generate human-like text. That's the big takeaway. They're trained on vast amounts of text and data. And that's a big thing with clients too. Just to do a little side tangential rant here is that one client had to, one of my colleagues had to sign like NDAs and all this stuff because they had cybersecurity clients and they didn't want their information training these large language models, because that's the deal with all of these like media companies, is they're crawling all of this stuff. So that's a little side note there. But relating to that, we have our autoregressive models. And if you're zoning out, stay with me. This is important. I know we're getting a little academic here, but these are a specific kind of large language models that generate text one word at a time. So that's for like general coherence. So you have to know how they string together. Like GPT-3, it's an example of one of the models here. I mentioned GPT. Let's talk about those. And this is a good transition to use Spider, but generative pre-trained transformers, GPT. We all talk about ChatGPT. This is specific to OpenAI. OpenAI is a company. This is one of their branded terms here. So GPTs are a type of autoregressive large language model developed by OpenAI. They're pre-trained on like a large body of text. And then as we go to ChatGPT, again, a specific application of GPT models designed for conversational interactions. It's the most familiar way people interact with AI. And the big takeaway is it allows for like the natural and engaging dialogue. So let me pause and take a breath there, but those are all the major terms you need to know.
There's a lot, and there's a lot to unpack in there, Lori, obviously. One of the things, so a million years ago when I was working in rich media advertising, we were so cutting edge that we would call up ad agencies and say, hey, we can help you create these interactive ads. And they'd be like, what? And it was really hard. I mean, it was a very hard conversation to have because you're talking about something that they can't visualize. They don't understand it because they haven't seen it in context. And so after a while, when we had some initial clients would say, hey, come look at some of the ads we've already created for some of our other clients. And they would come back and go, oh, we want to do an ad like the one you did for IBM. Because now they understood the frame of reference, like, oh, that was really cool. Can we do something like that? So I think having that frame of reference, having that place, the jumping off point, it really starts by seeing some things that can really work out. And you talk about the idea of GPTs. And the thing, and you and I have talked about this, especially in content marketing, one of the most important things that you can establish as a marketer is your brand voice. And again, brand voices, as we've talked about in the past, can vary, right? If you're a large healthcare organization, there has to be a sense of trust and caring and other things in the voice. If you're selling, fun, whimsical things for teenagers, it has to come across as being kind of fun and hip and whimsical, right? And so different voices are different things. You wouldn't necessarily have a daycare center, and a bank and have them have the same voice. It's just not going to be the same thing that works out for you. Now, one of the other things I want to share with you, Lori, is now we've known each other for a long time, and for a number of years, I had a job being a programmer, and I worked with a number of different languages. And in my own admission, I'm not the world's greatest programmer. I managed to hack my way through it and made a fairly good living doing things, but I like to make things. And so when I sat down with ChatGPT a few months ago, I said, you know what, it'd be really fun. I'd like to create something that would allow me, in essence, to be able to create prompts that I could use in Midjourney to generate random artworks. Right? I'm way too lazy to just start typing the things in. I want something that can type it for me. That was the concept. So let me jump over here and share with you what I came up with here. And I basically said in ChatGPT, I would like to create a program that allowed me to create a prompt I can use to generate art in Midjourney. And so it started offering up some great suggestions, which I really liked, and talking about different moods and color schemes and things like that. And then talked about you should build a database of options, and I said, okay. And it made the suggestion, let's do something in Python. Now, again, I don't know anything about Python. I have never programmed Python in my life. And suddenly there I am. Now, as a programmer, I can look at the code and understand what's going on. So, okay, we're going to deal with different subjects and some different styles and moods. And I can see how these might be used to create prompts for Midjourney. And then being able to create some sort of a random generator. Yep. Understanding what's going on in here and how the prompt might come out. Almost like putting together Mad Libs. You remember Mad Libs from school where you can put the noun and the verb, right? Well, we're doing the same thing, except we're going to put the style here and the subject here. I said, all right, this is cool. And I said, but we're going to need more nouns. We're going to need more items. I said, could you please generate a list of 250 nouns that include animals, household objects, places, building, flowers, and foods? Figure just kind of. And so it went out there and it said, I've only found 60 unique nouns. And I said, let's, create 100 more subjects. And so what it did is it said, yeah, I've done this. Now it's also trying to, it's dealing with a lot of resources. And at the time I was doing this, a lot of people were hitting the servers and it was only giving you a certain amount of time per day. And so I wanted to use my time. And I said, please show me the list. And so here's the list of, plants and animals and places and household objects and all that stuff that it pulled together. And so, all right, so that's a pretty helpful thing. And I said, now, can you put this into the Python script? And so it said, all right, this is what it looks like now. We have subjects. So this is pretty exciting to me because, again, I spent, 12 seconds actually thinking this stuff up, right? It put it in for me automatically. So, well, this is great. What about some different artistic styles if I want to have different types of art being generated? And so it said it's added now has 53 of them. I was like, show them to me. So here we are, digital mixed media, tempera, gouache, airbrush, fabric, ceramics, etc. Right. And that's kind of fun. And, so they're my expanded styles. I say, this is cool. Now let's use a stylized value in the form of our stylized, which is a tag we have to use when we're working in Midjourney. And I say with a possible value between 0 and 750, which is the range of stylization. And all it basically means when you stylize something is how closely do you want me to stay to what you just asked for? Or do you want me to kind of be more creative? If it's 0, stay right on top of this and show me only this. And if the number gets bigger, I have a lot more leeway to go do some pretty weird things. Yep. And so we're going to randomize that. And so again, we've worked that into the code. And I said, let's generate a test prompt. And so it came in and it was able to pull some information, create artistic style of subject art that conveys the sense of. And so this is what it's giving to me. I'm like, all right, so the code is sort of working. Create a surreal artwork of cherry blossoms using watercolor conveys a sense of serenity. And, a couple different prompts that it was able to pull together for me. And I was able to get a sense that it's working. And I said, okay, now can you show me the entire script? And so, Lori, this took me less than 20 minutes of going through here. I wrote an entire program in Python without knowing how to write Python. And it was able to come in here and do this whole thing. But just being able to create something, I create this randomizer. Again, this program just blew my mind because I sat on a sofa, wrote a program in 20 minutes that did exactly what I wanted it to do. And it's incredibly, incredibly empowering to do that. Now, again, apart from the time saving, which we've talked about and how important that is, being able to get your voice down and as content marketers, being able to have something that saves us time. This is really the main takeaway here. How can I create tools that allow me to go out and do my research quickly? How do I go out and find the tools that allow me to find my audience more quickly? How do I use these tools that allow me to create the media and content that I want to use as part of my campaigns more quickly?
Yep. You know what I like in this too? It's just the bigger your company grows, the more siloed you get. It happens.
It does happen.
And I have the experience of needing to do something very small and you put in a request or it's I just want to do this on my own. It doesn't mean I want this to be my full-time job, but I learned about all these different languages from the data team. And, they would say, here's what we're doing. I kind of don't care about the ins and outs. I just want my information. So if I can do it on my own, it's great, let me just do this. So that's really my big takeaway for this. I use it for something simple like Excel formulas, but to even have an entire Python script. Now let's keep in mind, what script works perfectly the first time? Even people who do that for a job, you're always going to have bugs, but still
never, right?
Miles ahead versus having nothing. This is.
And if I had written a script like that years ago, a week, maybe not quite that long, but it would have taken me a lot of trial and error, like, test this. And, the fact that it can generate this content really fast, not to mention, I'll be honest with you, if you said to me, hey, Spider, come up with 250 nouns, I'm like, all right, get started. It's not going to, I can do it, but it's
Yeah.
not going to happen in 2 minutes, right? It's going to take me a while to go through this.
I'm
And
getting like flashbacks to undergrad at UMass Lowell where I had to take it was just like a general, I don't know, internet class. And it was like, let's learn HTML and learn hex codes. And
right,
that
right,
now I'm just like, that was an entire semester. And I don't use HTML. I'm glad I know how it works.
right.
And I love my hex codes and all that stuff. But this is a new world. It's a mind whack.
It is absolutely a mind whack. And again, this idea of being able to step away from these things is, and I like your idea that we can really be code agnostic now. We don't have to even care what the code is built in. Does it do what we want it to do? And is there a shell that we can put it in that will allow that code to run so we can get the results we want? And at the end of the day, it's about the results. It's not about the building of the thing. It's good to have people who know what they're doing when they put something together. But if the machine can do a pretty good job at it and allow us as mere mortals, I mean, again, think about the pragmatic aspect of this. And I don't want to take work away from anybody, but I wasn't going to hire somebody who knew Python to write this goofy script for me anyway. So the fact that I can do it myself without hiring somebody and I can actually make it happen. And I've often thought about this from an artistic standpoint, not to get on too long a tangent, but have you ever had kind of something in your mind's eye going, gosh, it would be really great if I could recreate that, if only I had the artistic talent to draw that thing, which I don't. So you're like, all right, I'll never be able to visualize that. Now being able to go and describe what you had in your dream or your vision to an AI and say, here, let me take a stab at it. Did it look like this? Be like, that's pretty damn close. I like that, what you
Right?
did there. Or maybe
Yeah.
that's even better than what I visualized. How cool is this? And again, the idea of allowing mere mortals to have the skills of becoming fairly good writers. And, I don't want this to sound snooty, but to me, writing has always been a fairly easy process. But I've also spent hours and hours and hours of my life. I've written something like 12 books in my career.
Yeah.
I've written a lot of stuff. So yeah, you get good because I practice all the time, but not everyone finds writing easy or enjoyable. So having a tool that can help you get there, I'm okay with leveling the playing field and making it easier for mere mortals to have artistic skills that may not be inherent to them, have the ability to write skills that may not be inherent to them. I think these are not terrible things.
Nope. I think a great way of looking at this and wrapping it up, it's that you can look at it like AI is going to take things away from people. I look at it as it's going to help more people have the ability to express themselves.
And that's not a terrible thing. And again, as we talked about last week, you want to make sure the AIs aren't hallucinating while you're expressing yourself, because that can reflect badly on you and your brand. But you're absolutely right. And I think about solopreneurs and small businesses, SMBs who don't have a lot of anything, right? A lot of money, a lot of personnel, or a lot of time to be able to use these tools to basically ratchet up and have that level playing field where they can compete with the big players who have more deeper pockets and more time and personnel.
Absolutely, but use them responsibly and ethically. And that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yep.
Well, Lori, as always, thank you so much for your great ideas and working on this podcast with me. I'm having such a
Likewise.
good time doing this. Outside of our day jobs, we get together and we just, two old friends who get together and talk shop. This is really kind of what we're doing, and we're really happy to have you come along for it. By the way, check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. I know you may have found this, but at MindWhack, you'll find us. It's at MindWhack, and you'll find all the episodes that we've created are there. We're going to find new distribution models coming up very soon. But anyway, that's where they're hanging out on YouTube for now, and we'll work from there. Anyway, that's all we have this week. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time and attention. We'll see you next time.
See ya.